Good morning, everybody, and welcome to today's webinar. We are going to be talking about the CRM and leases. My name is Jane Stevens. I'm the training manager here at Zolo, and we've got a lot to cover. So we are going to start right away. I'm just going to make sure that everybody has been admitted properly to the meeting. So just bear with me 1 second so we can get started. All right. Okay, and feel free to ask me questions as I go along. If anything comes up, feel free to either put your question in the chat box, or if you'd like, just raise your hand and I can turn your mic on for you, and then that way we can chat as well, whatever's easiest. All right, so let's get started here. All right. Okay, so we are going to be talking about the CRM. So we're actually kind of doing two webinars in one today. Yesterday was a stat, so we didn't do the new agent orientation for the CRM. So I am going to cover that today. And then I'm going to talk to you about leases, because if you're brand new to real estate, if you're brand new to Zolo, then that's what you're going to be starting with. Those are the types of leads that you're going to be getting. So I'm going to talk to you about how to log into your CRM, how to receive those leads, how to talk to them, what to ask so that you can take them out on showings. You want to be converting those calls to showings, and of course, writing offers and closing deals. So as I said, we're kind of combining the CRM training and leases all in one and how they go together hand in hand. So as I said, lots to cover today. So let's get started. All right, so the CRM, first of all, before we talk about that, let me just tell you where the leads are coming from. Of course, they're coming from our Zolo website as well as our app. So make sure that you're familiar with the Zolo website and that you've downloaded the app as well. So go to the App Store if you haven't already done so, and make sure you have the app available on your phone. It's a great tool. You're going to be showing lots of properties. It's nice to have that app literally in your back pocket so that you can pull up the property information and answer any questions that your clients might have. Of course, not all of the information that is on MLS is going to be visible on the app, such as the possession date. So you definitely want to make sure that you know that up front so that you are showing clients properties that do match their timeline. So have that downloaded. Again, it's a good tool, and of course, become familiar with the website as well. I'm going to show you a couple of screenshots from the website just so that you know what it looks like and what the user is experiencing on their end. All right. So this is the Zolo website. I've done a screenshot here of some Oakville properties that are available for rent. And as soon as you type in Oakville up here in the search bar, you change the search criteria to for rent instead of for sale. And all of the listings that are available for rent in Oakville are going to auto-populate on the website. So from the consumer's perspective, they're able to browse, they're able to look at properties, but not for very long before they're asked to sign up for a free account. So if they haven't already signed up for a free account, they're going to see something that looks like this. So let's say they selected this property on Ellen Davidson Drive in Oakville. It's available for lease for $5,000 a month. If they haven't signed up for an account, they are required to sign up for one. Oftentimes, it's just the nature of online leads. When they're asked to sign up for a free account, they may enter information that is incorrect. But as you can see down here, if they are interested in this property, they're going to request to tour this home. They're going to request for more information. So the chances of them entering their correct contact information is high because they do want information. They do want somebody to call them back. So those are the types of leads we get here at Zolo. It's not just somebody registering to the site to have access to the photos, but they're actually asking about property. So when you call these people back, they do have questions. They want to know when this property is available for. They might have some other questions that hopefully you can answer. Having your MLS system open and then converting that call to a showing. So scheduling that appointment and meeting them on Saturday at 1 o'clock, whatever it is that you schedule. So again, they have the opportunity here to sign up for a free account and correct any information that they may have previously entered incorrectly, because now they do want to go see this property and they are interested in booking a showing. All right. So from their perspective, if they have filled in that section where they've asked to tour this home, they're going to see a thank you page. So it just thanks them for inquiring about this particular property. We have this new feature here where they can actually even request a date and time that suits them. So hopefully when you get this text and email that you have this new lead, you'll also see when they're hoping to see the property. So hopefully you're also available at that time and you can schedule the showing. So all of this will come to you again, as an email, as a text message, so you don't have to worry about checking your CRM all the time for new leads. We don't keep it a secret. We definitely let you know that you have a new lead inquiring about a property. So as you can see, in addition to thanking them for inquiring about this property, you also see down here in the corner, do you want answers right away? And they can call and text their Zolo agent. And just so you know that once a lead has been assigned to you, any property that they see on the website, they'll see you as their agent. So you're going to be assigned to them, they're assigned to you. So if they did have questions about this property, they really like it, they really want to schedule a showing, they do see your photo down here at the bottom. So if you haven't sent in your photo to the, where am I going here? To your growth manager, please do so. And then also note here that there is a Zolo number that has been assigned to you. So this phone number is not your cell phone number, but it's forwarded to your cell phone number. So if anybody decides to call you because they're really eager to see this property, your phone will ring. So answer any call that you don't recognize, and just know that any phone call that is made to this Zolo number is recorded. So you can listen to it in your CRM. So if they call you and you're in the middle of a showing and they're asking you about a property that you're not familiar with, just know that, let them know that you're in the middle of a showing, that you'll call them back in an hour, however long it's going to take you. And then when you do call them back, you can pull up the property information, call them back with the information, and schedule that showing. So also, they do have the option of sending you a text message to this number. And again, you'll be able to see that in the CRM. So I just want you to know where these things are being initiated and how they end up in your CRM, because that's what we're going to talk about next. We're going to talk about your CRM. So in your welcome email, again, if you're brand new, you have this URL, crm.zolorealty.ca. Make sure that you go to your CRM on your desktop and also on your phone. Now, there isn't an app for the CRM on your phone. So what you'll have to do is, if you're an iPhone user, you'll have to go to Safari, so your browser, and then type in this URL and save it to your homepage. So you want to have a shortcut available to you, because really the most important thing that we're going to talk about today is updating your activity. So you want to have access to your CRM while you're out on the road doing showings. You want to be entering that activity as quickly as possible so that the Zolo bot knows that you're working. The Zolo bot will reward active agents with leads. So really important to update your activities in real time. So don't wait to drive all the way home to update that activity with a showing, or a phone conversation. Make sure that you do have the Zolo CRM saved on your phone somewhere so that you can update all of those activities. So this is what it looks like initially. You're going to enter in your Zolo email and the password that was provided to you in your welcome email, and that's going to give you access to your CRM dashboard. All right, so let's talk about the dashboard. It's divided into a few different sections. You can see up here at the top, there's a toolbar. So there's lots of things that you can explore on your own with the toolbar. Because today we're combining two training sessions, the CRM and leases, I won't go into every single detail about the CRM, but I'm going to give you what's important, specifically what to update in terms of activities, and we'll get to that. But right now, this is the layout of your CRM. So up at the top, you do have your toolbar. And then right on your dashboard, you're going to have recent contact requests. Now, these are the recent contact requests. So these are the people who have just requested information about a property online. And you want to keep this list to a minimum of, let's say, 3 to 5 leads, because you really want to be engaging with them. You want to be taking them out on showings. You want to be writing offers, obviously closing deals. So you want to be updating all of those activities, which basically filters those leads into the different pipelines that you see over here. The different folders that you see in your pipeline. So really keep this list to a minimum. If you have 10, 15, 20 leads sitting on your dashboard, again, that's going to notify the Zolo bot that you're really not engaging with your leads. You're really not an active agent. And what will happen is the Zolo bot will slow down your leads and eventually pause your leads altogether and reassign whatever you have in your CRM to another agent who is active. So really important to, yes, take a look at your recent contact requests and then jump on them right away. You want to keep that list on your dashboard to a minimum. You want to be updating your activities, which is how you're going to filter them through this pipeline. Of course, you're going to want to, make sure that when you're filtering them through the pipeline, that they're not just out of sight, out of mind, right? If you have engaged with them, so that could be a phone call, that could be an email, it could be text messages back and forth. You've engaged with them, so now they're in your engaged folder in your pipeline. Again, you don't want it to be out of sight, out of mind. Maybe you had a conversation with them about viewing some properties, but they weren't sure what their schedule was going to be like over the weekend, so they're going to call you back. Don't rely on them calling you back. Schedule a follow-up for yourself so that you also see that on your dashboard on that particular day. So maybe you schedule a follow-up for Friday to find out whether or not they are available on Saturday or Sunday to view the properties they inquired about. So you would see that on your dashboard under scheduled activities. And then, as I already touched on here, there is the pipeline. So we'll talk about the pipeline in a little bit more detail, because these are really, you want to have these folders top of mind, because those are the activities you want to basically update for each and every client. You want to be engaging with them. You want to be taking them out on showings. You want to be writing offers and closing deals. So this is the pipeline. There is a folder that isn't visible right now, and it's called New Leads. I still like to mention it because these are the people who have registered to the Zolo site, as I mentioned before, but they haven't inquired about anything. So they are being assigned to you. You're getting leads on a constant basis in the background. You don't really see it. It's not until they actually request information about a property that they get moved all the way up to the top of your pipeline, and now they're considered a hot lead. So these people that are in your new request folder are also the leads that you see on your dashboard. So those are your recent contact requests. So again, we don't make it a secret. When somebody contacts you about a property, they have questions, they want to see it, you're going to get a text message. You're going to get an email. You're going to log into your CRM, whether it's on your desktop or on your phone, and you're going to see that lead also in two places, on your dashboard and in your new contact request folder. And then the whole idea, as I mentioned before, was to work with these leads and push them through this pipeline. So this is actually a really good sort of general job description of what we do as realtors. We receive leads, we want to engage with them. So again, that could either be a phone conversation, text message, emails back and forth. We have the technology. It's not always going to be a phone call. So whatever it is, you're talking to that client, you're engaging with them, and hopefully you're converting that conversation to a showing, right? You're giving them information, you're asking pre-qualifying questions, which we'll get to, and then you want to convert those qualified leads to showings. Go out, show them a few properties. Hopefully they like, one that you showed them, hopefully you're not having to do, 10 showings. We'll talk about having a system as well, because you do want to get to that offer stage. You want to be writing offers. The lease market is really competitive. So, hopefully it's the first offer that you write, but sometimes you might have to write a couple of offers on their behalf before they get an accepted offer. So accepted offers will go into your closed deal. So those are the activities you want to be updating, and you'll see all of that in your pipeline. So you can see now why it's important to also schedule follow-ups, because again, you don't just want these leads filtered into your pipeline. Out of sight, out of mind. You want to make sure that you're following up with these leads, so you're scheduling that in addition to updating your activities. So we're going to talk about all of that. All right. So as I said, the leads are coming in from the website and also from the app. So if you're looking at your dashboard and it looks something like this, where you have a name and then you also have a lead with just a phone number, don't discredit the phone number. It's still a valid lead. It's just come into your CRM in a different way. So the incoming email is somebody that inquired through the website, and then the incoming phone call is somebody who just called from the app. So just know, if it's on your dashboard, deal with it. Click on, either one of their names or their phone number, and that's going to take you to their client profile with all of their information. So let's talk about that. The client profile page, when you click on, let's say Donovan here, we're going to click on his name. That's going to take us to his client profile page. And this is basically a long screen that you're going to scroll down. These are screenshots of that, but just know that there's about 5 sections here in the client profile. The very first section is the contact information. So the client's name, phone number, email address, and of course you have here the update contact button. So I'm going to talk about that separately, because that's where you're going to go to update all of your activity. But for now, I'm just going to show you what is on the client profile page. So as I said, the first section is going to be their contact information. The second section that you can already see here is called inquiries. So if they were to call your Zolo number, again, remember I said at the beginning, any phone call that's made to your Zolo number gets recorded. So you would see a blue hyperlink here that says listen to call. So you can go back, listen to the call, see what properties they were inquiring about, pull them up on your MLS system and call them back with the information. You also can see any text message that was sent to your Zolo number, and you can reply to it within the CRM. It's a good idea to keep all of your communication within the CRM initially, because you don't know what's going to happen with the lead, right? You may need to transfer this lead to another agent if they decide, that they're not really going to work in Toronto or look for something in Toronto. They're going to go to London, Ontario. That's a long drive. So you may want to just transfer it to another agent. So you don't know what's going to happen with the lead. Just keep the communication there so that if you do end up transferring the lead, they know what's gone on. I would suggest once you meet them in person for showing, bring your business card. At that point, you can say, this is my personal cell phone number, and just not to overwhelm them with too many ways of contacting you at the beginning. Keep it all in the CRM, nice and organized. The next section that you see here on the client profile page is the note section. So some of these notes are going to be system generated. So if this lead was reassigned to you, you would see that happened. So you can see that there's a note that this was manually reassigned by the Zolo bot. Lots of reasons for that. I already mentioned one where, if there's another Zolo agent who's not active in their CRM, then the Zolo bot is going to reassign those leads. So that's what's happened here. There may be other reasons, but you can see what's happened with the lead. You can also see if the lead has changed any of their contact information. Again, what I was saying at the beginning, sometimes people enter in their incorrect details because they don't want anybody to call them. They're just signing up to look at photos, to look at properties online. But then when they do want information, the chances are that they're going to update their contact information as well. So you see all that. And of course, any notes that you enter will also be visible in this section. Really, really important to keep notes because you're going to be talking to so many people and it's going to be hard to remember everybody's details. So make sure that you do update notes. You'll be able to see them clearly in this note section. All right. So next section here, the contact profile is a little bit tricky because the Zolo bot gives a score to each and every lead. Personally, I don't put too much weight on the score because in this example here, this lead, it looks like, registered way back in September 2018. So maybe he was thinking about buying a property then. This is a buyer lead, so we're talking about leases, but maybe they registered a while ago. Maybe they actually leased a property with Zolo and now they're looking to move again, right? So they've been inactive for couple of years, that's going to give the lead a score of 0. So it may not be that the lead is actually a 0. It may just be that they've been inactive for a while. So again, don't put too much weight on that. If the lead is inquiring about a property, call them back, find out what they're looking for. So this just gives you some information about what they're doing on the website while they're there. It's telling you what property they're looking at the most, and it tells you when they were last online. And it also, as you can see here, signs them up for auto emails. So auto emails are defaulted to yes. Anybody who signs up for a free account on Zolo is signing up to receive emails about properties that the Zolo bot thinks it might be interested in. So here's the thing. The Zolo bot is going to determine which properties this particular lead is interested in based on their search activity on the website. So what we see here is the next section in the client profile page is telling you what their search activity is, what their site behavior has been. What are they looking at on the Zolo site? And again, this one is an example of a buyer lead looking at properties between 789.9 to 2.2 million, a bunch of different property types in a bunch of different areas. Oakville, Burlington, Mississauga, Vaughan is in there. So it's a really wide net to cast for a search. You would probably not set somebody up on a search like this in Treb. They would be bombarded with MLS listings that match the search criteria. So you want to go ahead and turn off these auto emails, of course, after you've had the conversation with this lead to find out really what their search criteria is, because you want to set them up in your MLS system with a prospect search so that they're just receiving properties that actually do fit what they're looking for. Because this is what happens, right? They have access to the Zolo site. They have access to all of the MLS listings. So yeah, they're going to look at properties that they can afford, but they're also going to maybe dream a little bit and see some multi-million-dollar properties, right? But that's maybe not exactly what they're looking for. So go ahead, click on the edit button up here at the top, and you will have the ability to turn off those auto emails by simply clicking on no. So Again, have a conversation with this lead. We're going to talk about that in a second. And once you do, you want to turn off these auto emails and set them up in your MLS system so they are receiving properties that actually do match their real search criteria. All right, last but not least, again, if you're brand new to real estate, the very last section in the client profile page is called qualifying, and it has its own edit button. Great tool here. If you click on the edit button in the qualifying section, it gives you a qualifying questionnaire. So basically, it's just a cheat sheet of what to ask. And of course, these questions are going to be second nature, but sometimes you forget to ask important things. What's their target closing date is a great question to ask, because then when they're planning on moving, their timeline. Hopefully, their motivation too. Maybe it's to move closer to work, or maybe they don't need to go into the office anymore. They're looking at something in the suburbs. Maybe they want to be closer to a school district. Whatever the case is, you have an idea as to when they're looking to move. You want to make sure that you're working with people who are motivated, and you want to know what their, of course, target closing date is, because you don't want to be showing them properties that are available now if they're not going to be ready for another 60 days. All right, so use that qualifying questionnaire as a cheat sheet, and it's also a great place to enter in information about their search criteria, so you can refer to it later. And last thing I'm going to mention here is, the profile. These buttons over here, I'm not going to get into that too much, but we're in the qualifying questionnaire right now. If you were to click on the profile button, that would take you back to their profile page, which brings us back to the client's main profile page, which is where I now want to talk about the update contact button. So let me see, I've got some questions coming in. Can you show where to set up emails or turn them off? Yes, absolutely. So we cannot set up searches in Zolo. So we can't set up auto emails from Zolo. All we can do is turn them off. So as I was mentioning before, in the client's profile, you want to go up here to the edit button, and then you'll be able to turn auto emails off. And then hopefully you set them up on your MLS system so that they're receiving now, a list from you directly with properties that actually match their search criteria. So you wouldn't be setting them up to receive emails directly from Zolo. You're doing that directly from your MLS program. Hopefully that answers your question. So the update contact button, let's get into that, because that is really the heart of your CRM. That is the most important thing that we're going to talk about, in addition to the qualifying questions, because really you want to be talking to people, making sure that they are qualified, so that you're not spending time or wasting time, with people that ultimately you won't be able to help. So let's talk about the update contact button. As you know, it lives right here on the client's profile page. As I already mentioned, it's the very first section. When you click on that client lead on your dashboard, it's going to take you to this client profile page, and that update contact button is right there, part of the very first section. So when you click on that, it's going to take you to this screen. And the system is really user-friendly. It asks you, what activity did you do? And of course, there's a bunch of activities that we can do with leads that come in. We can call them. Again, this doesn't have to be limited to a phone call. It could be a text message. It could be any type of conversation that you're having is a call. Of course, you can meet with them. You can meet with them for a showing. You can meet with them to get a listing agreement signed. Of course, that also brings me to agreements. You can have a BRA signed. You can have a listing agreement signed, whatever it is. That's another activity. Of course, you can take them out on showings. They might be ready to offer, which I'll talk about in a second. And then, of course, you have the deal activity, which is hopefully the activity you get to. And then you might have sent them a message outside of the CRM that you just want to keep track of. So again, talking about leases, maybe you sent them an email with a blank rental application. So you might want to just keep track of that in the CRM. But thinking back to that pipeline that we have on our dashboard, thinking about what those folders are that you want to be moving them through, the important activities to update are going to be those activities in the pipeline. In other words, you want to be engaging with them. So that's going to be your call. You want to be taking them out on showings, which goes hand in hand with your meeting rate. And then, of course, you want to be writing offers and closing deals, right? So that was the pipeline. And so those are the activities that you really need to focus on. Now we have some metrics here in the back end. If you ever want to know your numbers, reach out to your growth manager and ask how you're doing. The call rate, definitely you want to be calling back 100% of the leads that come into your CRM. But of course, there's going to be times where the phone number is, it's a bad number, wrong number, whatever it is. So that's why we've made an allowance for that. So don't panic if you call and it's a bad number, then, you're not going to be punished for that. The Zolo bot isn't going to hold that against you. So we do make an allowance for that. So the call rate is actually 80%. And then let's just assume here that you are receiving 1 to 2 leads every day. So just for some easy math, let's say you're receiving 10 leads in a week. Hopefully you're converting 2 to 3 people to showings that week. So you're meeting 2 to 3 people every week. With leases, they come in fast and furious. There's lots of lease leads to be had, lots of conversations to have. So really focusing on pre-qualifying your tenants over the phone. I'll talk about that. And really converting those qualified leads to showings, because again, you want to maximize your time here. So showing at least 2 to 3 people, super achievable. And then of course, real estate is a numbers game. So the more showings you go out on, the more likely you're going to show something that somebody actually likes. They're going to want to write an offer. You're going to prepare it for them. So you want to be writing 2 to 3 deals every month. You might even have a target for yourself that you're writing 2 to 3 deals every week, right? And hopefully 1 or 2 of those gets accepted. Maybe all 3 of them get accepted, but real estate doesn't have 100% approval rating. So again, just focusing on writing those deals. The more you write, the more you'll get accepted. And don't be afraid to come in and update your activity with a deal that didn't go through. Because again, the Zolo bot is watching. The Zolo bot, will recognize if you've got a great call rate, but you're not taking anybody out on showings, then, again, that might be a reason why your leads gets slowed down, if that's how you say it. Yeah. So make sure that you are updating all of your activity, even if it's a failed offer, because it shows that you're active, it shows that you're doing the work, and the Zolo bot will reward active agents with leads. All right. Let me know if you guys have questions so far, but I'm just going to talk about each of these activities and what second question gets populated. So the call button, if you are calling somebody back, make sure that you go into the CRM and you, of course, let the CRM know that that's the activity you're doing. Was the call connected? Yes. Call yes is the only way that you can move a lead into your engage folder in your pipeline. So make sure that you are updating call yes as often as possible and adding a note about your conversation. And then again, because it does get filtered into your pipeline, make sure that you're scheduling a follow-up so that it's not, as I said before, out of sight, out of mind. So if you have a conversation with somebody and yes, they want to go see properties tomorrow, but they need to confirm their schedule a follow-up for later on in the day or tomorrow morning so that you can find out if they are available. Call no actually sends them an automatic text message. So our data shows that voicemail messages don't really get picked up. So if you are calling a lead back, not necessary to leave a voicemail message, just go into your CRM and click on call no, because then the Zolo bot is going to send an automatic text message saying, sorry, we missed you. When's a good time to call, right? And then that's going to initiate that text messaging conversation within the CRM. So call no, that will keep it on your dashboard. So have a rule of thumb for yourself. Maybe add a note here saying attempt number 1, attempt number 2, attempt number 3. With lease leads, you might want to try 3 times. With a buyer lead, you might want to try 5 times before going ahead and updating it with never answers. So have a rule of thumb for yourself that you're going to follow. And then, of course, as I said before, we do make an allowance for wrong number, bad number, scam number. Update that activity if that's the case, and then submit your update. All right. So let's talk about, before I talk about the other activities, showings and deals, let's talk about this conversation. So this is where I wanted to come in and give you guys some pre-qualifying questions because, of course, as I said before, you will get lots of leads and you want to make sure that you're working with leads that are qualified. So let's talk about pre-qualifying your clients. Of course, with inbound calls, you want to make sure that you're answering all of your calls. Not too much of a script here, but definitely if you're brand new, you might want to start the conversation with how can I help you? And then at the end of the conversation, when would you like to view some properties? In between those 2 questions, have a conversation. Really listen to them about what it is that they're looking for, why, what their timeline is, and then ask them if they are familiar with the process. And it really doesn't matter if they say yes or no, because you're going to explain the process anyway, because this is your opportunity to ask some pre-qualifying questions. So we'll get to that. Outbound calls, same thing. If you missed an incoming call, try to get back to them right away. Make sure that you're speaking to the lead who actually inquired about the property. Introduce yourself as an agent from Zolo.ca, remind them what they were looking at. I see you inquired about 123 Main Street. And then again, how can I help you? And when would you like to see the property? In between those two questions, have a conversation and make sure that you have an opportunity there to explain the process. And this is what I mean. You want to make sure that you're letting your clients know that the lease market is really competitive. You don't want to be showing properties to somebody who, wants to rent a property for 2,100 but wants to see properties that are listed for 2,500. It's just not going to happen. So make sure that that's kind of the first thing you say to them. The lease market is really competitive. If your budget is 2,100, let's look at properties for 2,100. And then let them know also what the landlords require. Always make it about the landlord. It's not you that's asking them for their credit score or employment letter. It's the landlords who are going to want to see that. So let them know the landlords are going to want to see your credit score and your employment letter. And the key to this conversation is to get that information from them over the phone. Do you know what your credit score is? Landlords want to see a credit score of over 650. Do you know what your credit score is? Are you in that range? Landlords also want to see that you can afford the rent. The rent shouldn't be more than 30% of your income. So if you're looking at a property that is $3,000 a month, can we show that your income is $9,000, $10,000 a month? It doesn't all have to come from employment income. It could be spousal support, child support, whatever it is. Ask them questions, ask them, additional information. So you want to make sure that you are working with qualified people. Now, here's what happens. You may have a client who says, yes, I have great income, but it's all cash. I don't have any way to prove it. And my credit score is 500. Still provide that lead with customer service. They've called Zolo, right? Let them know that, they're better finding a property on Kijiji or Facebook Marketplace where landlords have, less requirements than when they use a realtor. The other alternative is you can give them the listing agent's information, right? Call them directly. They may be able to put you in touch with the landlord. So whatever the situation is, if you can't help them, point them in the right direction. But hopefully you can help them. And those are the people that you're converting to showings. You don't want to be showing properties to somebody who isn't qualified. You're not going to be able to get them an accepted offer. So, really make sure that you're asking these questions. Credit score of at least 650 and income showing that the rent isn't going to be more than 30% of their income. So find that out. In addition to, I've already mentioned this, their timeline and motivation, because again, you don't want to be out showing properties that are available immediately if they're not going to be ready to move for another 2 months, right? They won't get the property. So really make sure that you're qualifying them over the phone. Again, another tip to kind of take away is if they're reluctant to give you this information, I get this question all the time. If they don't want to share this with you, then I find that, if they're defensive about it, they're probably not qualified. So if they don't want to share that information with you, unfortunately, you're not going to be able to schedule that showing, right? Still, again, provide them with good customer service. And maybe, again, the listing agent's contact information is something that you might want to provide. So, yeah. Also, I've said timeline already, motivation. The other thing that I haven't mentioned yet, which is also really important, is situation. Because you might have a client who, is, they're a student and they've got 5 other roommates that, they're all looking for a house. First of all, that's going to be a lot of paperwork for you because you'll probably need, you will need all of their information, all of their credit scores, all of their income. And if they're students, they're probably going to need their parents to be guarantors, which means you need guarantors for each of the students. Again, point them in a different direction. Send them to Kijiji or Facebook Marketplace because those situations are going to be harder for you to find a property for. So, stick with the sort of put yourself in the landlord's position, right? Hopefully you find, a professional couple, a young family, a single working professional, whatever it is, as opposed to these, multi-family or like roommate situations. Those are just difficult to find properties for. So keep that in mind when you're asking your pre-qualifying questions. And then having a system in place so that once you know that you are going to work with them, then you want to follow up with an email, sending them the rental application. You might even want to reiterate what you said over the phone in terms of what documents they need. I know some realtors request those documents before they even agree to take them out on a showing. But again, I go back to that conversation. If you're satisfied with their answers to your questions, I can see why a tenant might not want to disclose all of their personal information to you before they've even met you and before they've even found a property that they like. So just kind of keep that in mind if that's going to be your process. But send them an email with the rental application after that conversation, and then set them up in TREB. So whatever MLS system you are a member of, set them up so that they are receiving properties that match their search criteria. So hopefully they can reply, they can schedule, or they can request to see a few properties, hopefully, 3 to 4 properties. If they're asking you again for 10 properties, let them know they're all going to start to look the same. Can you pick your top 3 or 4? And hopefully you find them something in that first day. Maybe you show them a second time, but you want to be closing these deals really quickly. And then once you've done the showings, asking for the business, asking if they're interested in the property, and then from that point you can go ahead and prepare the paperwork and the offer. So this is kind of the system you want to have, including those pre-qualifying questions that are super, super important, because at the end of the day, it's going to save you time. All right, so let me see. I have a question coming in. So, who reviews the signed offer of lease and supporting documents before submission? Or please guide me for the process in true order. Yeah, absolutely. So, if you have a signed offer to lease, so your clients have signed it and you want somebody to review it before you send it to the listing agent, that's what your growth manager is there for. So, you can prepare everything in web forms, and there is a way that you can email your documents to your growth manager. They can quickly review it and tell you, whether or not something's missing, whatever the situation is, so that that you're sending in the correct, properly completed documents to the listing agent. So yeah, in terms of the process, we're going to talk about that coming up. All right. So this is just an example of a follow-up email. So after you've had that conversation with that lead, you've asked them the pre-qualifying questions, you've decided that yes, they're qualified, I'm going to help them, send them this email with the rental application. And again, it can be short and sweet. You can have this longer and lengthier with links to where they can go to get their credit report. So it's up to you how you want to structure this, but just reiterate the conversation and explain to them again what documents they're going to need to have ready. All right. As I mentioned, in addition to that email that you send out with the rental application, set them up on a prospect search. This is just a quick screenshot of where you would go in TREB to set that up. But of course, if you're a member of a different MLS board, this will look different. Do whatever works for you, but make sure that they're getting listings directly from you that does match their search criteria, because that is, an easy way for them just to reply and say, you know what, we really like properties 1 and 2. Also, it's notifying them of properties as soon as they're listed. So, if they are serious about finding something, it's important to jump on those new listings right away because they get leased quite quickly. So as I said, hopefully they like what it is that you've sent them. They want to schedule some showings. So you're going to go ahead and book those showings for them. So a couple of things, again, in your MLS system, you do have the ability to do online showings, which is probably the easiest and the fastest. So you pull up whatever property it is that they want to see. You can pull it up by MLS number or whatever's easiest, and schedule it online. Alternatively, if that's not available, you can call the listing brokerage and schedule the showing. So call them, introduce yourself, request to book the appointment on Saturday at 1, and then you will get a confirmation email with the lockbox code. So make sure that you're putting that in your calendar. You are sending an itinerary to your clients of all the properties you're going to see in order. Of course, you're not sharing the lockbox code with them. You must attend all showings, and if you need to cancel, definitely cancel. You don't want to have a complaint that a tenant vacated the property and nobody showed up. It could result in a fine. So just avoid that and cancel. Even if you're literally outside waiting for your clients and your clients don't show up, it happens sometimes, go ahead and cancel that appointment. All right, so jumping back into the CRM, once you have taken your clients out on that showing, you're going to want to go in and update that activity. So again, this is why it's a great idea to have your CRM on your phone, because you want to be updating your showings after you've taken them out on a showing. So as you're leaving the property, you're sitting in the driveway, pull up your CRM on your phone and update that activity with a showing. The reason why you're entering this after the showing is because entering this activity is going to send an automatic text message from the Zolo bot to your client saying, how do you rate your Zolo agent? So you don't want them to receive that text message prematurely. So enter in your showings after the fact, after you've taken them out on showings. And then if you've if you've shown them multiple properties, make sure to enter in all of the MLS numbers, because again, that's going to count towards your targets, right? So you're showing lots of properties, make sure that you enter that and you let the Zolo bot know. All you need to do with the system is feed it with information, feed it with activities, and it will continue to give you leads. So enter in your showings. All right. Once you are at the offer stage, hopefully they did like something that you showed them. This is when web forms kicks in. So web forms is where you're going to go to prepare your documents, and you can use Authentisign to have all of your documents electronically signed. And of course, then you'll want to present the offer to the listing agent. Now, web forms, I'm going to talk about, again, high level here today, because tomorrow at this time, 12 o'clock, I will do a live transaction and walk you through web forms. So this is not meant to be a CRM and leases and web forms training. It would just be too much. So tomorrow we are going to talk about web forms. So I can show you exactly how to create a transaction, what templates to select, how to fill in the forms, how to use Authentisign, how to upload things to the checklist. There's a lot of information with this. So I'm just going to very high level here, show you where you go, because I want you to be equipped with this information, because if you do go out on a showing today and they do like the property, I want you to know where to go next. All right, so web forms. Again, actually, these are all of the documents you need for a lease. And the good thing is that you don't need to remember this off the top of your head. This will be auto-populated for you in web forms just by selecting the correct template. And when you go to present it to the landlord, you're going to want to present it with the rental application and documents that's coming from your client. So the tenant completes the rental application and submits all of their documents to you that you already discussed, the credit report, the proof of income, and then the agreement to lease with any schedules attached, and the confirmation of co-op is another separate PDF that you might want to merge together and also present to the listing agent. So you're basically sending them two PDFs, the rental application with supporting documents, and then the offer to lease, which consists of your agreement to lease, the attached schedules, and confirmation of co-op. So that's what you would present to the listing agent. The tenant representation agreement and working with a realtor, those also need to be done at the time of preparing an offer or before, because this authorizes you to work on their behalf. And then FinTrack, you don't need that unless, of course, your deposit is more than $10,000. So if you are leasing a really nice fancy property that's maybe $5,500 a month, then their deposit is more than $10,000, or they're offering an increased deposit. It's going to be more than $10,000 probably. So that's the only time you would need to fill out the FinTrack form. Otherwise, this is just a quick overview of what documents you need for a lease. And then last but not least, the residential tenancy agreement is also something that needs to be done after everything has been accepted. So once the agreement to lease has been accepted, or your offer, you want to go ahead and prepare the residential tenancy agreement. It reiterates the accepted terms. I know there are some agents who do the residential tenancy agreement at the same time as the offer, but if things change, then you're also changing that form. So my recommendation is to do that after everything has been accepted. So this is an overview of everything you need for a lease. And now we can talk about web forms. Of course, you can access web forms from TREB's homepage, but I'm going to recommend that you always pull up the subject property. So here's an example of a property in Oakville that's for lease. It's available for $4,200 a month. And you can see up at the top, there's a link for web forms Authentisign. So that's where you're going to go to complete an offer for this particular property. And the reason it's good to go from this section is because it's going to auto-populate some of the information from this MLS listing into your forms. So it's doing some of the work for you. Of course, it's not going to do all of the work for you, but it does save you a little bit of time. So click on Web Forms Authentisign from the MLS listing of the subject property, and that will take you to web forms. So right away, you should get a dialog box that appears like this, and you want to name the transaction kit with the address of the property, and you want to be selecting the offer lease template. So again, I'm going to walk through this tomorrow. We'll do a live transaction kit in web forms, but you want to be selecting the right template. That's going to be important so that you can fill out all the forms and prepare them in web forms. All right, so let me just see. I'm getting a question here. Okay. I did a deal and the listing agent sent signed back on DocuSign. I had to use my husband's account to get the document signed under DocuSign from my client and send back to the listing agent. How do we do the sign back in AuthentiSign and web forms? Great question. So I love DocuSign, a very easy platform to use, but AuthentiSign is free. So if you do get something back from DocuSign, just save it. So you'll have to download it as a PDF, save it onto your computer, and then you're going to upload it into signings. So let me see if I have a screenshot of that. I think I do coming up. So yeah, let me address that in a second. So going back to creating the transaction kit, just make sure that you are naming it with the address of the property. You've got your client's name in there as well. You're selecting the appropriate template. If you're coming from that MLS listing, that MLS number will be auto-populated for you here. And then what you'll see next is your forms. So these are all the forms, again, auto-populated for you because you selected that correct template kit, and you're going to go ahead and fill out these forms. So the rental application isn't always going to be necessary because your client will have signed that or completed that for you. And the offer summary document also isn't usually necessary. It's really meant for agreements of purchase and sale, but sometimes a listing agent will ask for it with a lease. If they ask for it, you can provide it, it's there. But really the forms that you'll want to complete are these four. The agreement to lease and confirmation of co-op, again, that's your offer to lease, and then your tenant representation agreement and working with a realtor. That's between you and your client, and that authorizes you to represent them. So those are going to be the forms that you're going to complete. And there is a sidebar over here, which is not visible on my screenshot, but I think I have it visible in one of the upcoming slides. And that's where you can go into signing. So I'll address that question in a second. All right. Okay. So these are the forms. So basically all you need to do is you need to click on the agreement to lease. That will pull up that form and you'll fill in the blanks. Again, I will walk you through that tomorrow. Right now, I'm just showing you where to go. So let's assume that you have completed all of the forms in web forms. And what I don't have a screenshot of here, which I thought I did, sorry, was how to send it to AuthentiSign. But we're going to talk about that tomorrow because it is really a whole separate training session. So this is where you would go to prepare your offer. And then you can also have everything signed electronically from this platform. So once you have received your forms back, so you have your client and you have also signed the agreement to lease and the confirmation of co-op, everything's been signed, then now you can present it to the listing agent. So you want to save those documents that you had electronically signed as PDFs somewhere on your computer so that you can go ahead and email the listing agent and attach, as I said, the rental application with the supporting documents and the agreement to lease and confirmation of co-op. So those 2 PDFs. And you're going to present it typically by email. Have some sort of an email template. I'm happy to share these with you. Make sure that in the subject line, you're clearly stating that it's an offer to lease. If you just put in the address, it might be a question about the property. The listing agent might not open it right away, but if you put in there offer to lease, chances are that's going to be open pretty quickly. So make sure that you're explaining what's attached, the rental application with the supporting documents and your offer to lease. And then here's where we get to be creative. Introduce your clients in the best possible way, right? Young professional couple, both engineers, blah, 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 whatever it is, moving to the area for this reason or that reason. Explain your clients, and a really nice touch might even be to include a family photo. I have recommended this before. It's worked for me. It's worked for other agents who have been up against other people. You're introducing your clients virtually at this point, right? And picture is worth 1,000 words, so why not include one? It just puts a face to the name. It introduces your clients, really well. You might want to highlight as well what they're offering, especially if you're giving them a good offer, right? Is it available immediately? You're going to take it immediately. The term is a year. Your lease rate, maybe you're offering $100 more than what they're asking. Their deposit, maybe you're offering increased deposit like first and last 5 months. That's a really great offer. Highlight it in your offer email, and then give the listing agent just a heads up that it's irrevocable, so it expires at whatever time. Do yourself a favor, do a 6 p.m. Expiry or a 9 p.m. We don't want to be working until 11:59 p.m. on a lease. So just say it's irrevocable until whatever time. And then you can offer to prepare the residential tenancy agreement. Technically, that's supposed to be done between the landlord and the tenant, which technically means it's the listing agent's responsibility. But just show that you're going to be easy to work with. It also might increase your chances of getting your offer accepted over somebody else's. So that's how you would present your offer to the listing agent. And then, of course, we're talking about the CRM. So once you have presented the offer, you've sent it off, and you haven't heard anything back from the listing agent at this point, you're going to go into your CRM and you're going to update your client's activity with a deal. Even though you're working with a tenant, you're on the buying side of the transaction. And what's the status of the offer? This is an opening offer. So just so you know, you're going to have to update your deals activity at least twice. So any offer that you submit, you want to go ahead and update your activity with an opening offer. You've just sent it to the listing agent. And then, of course, you're going to have to come back and let us know what happened with the offer. Did it firm up or did it fail? Sometimes it might be accepted conditionally, not too often with leases, but sometimes landlords may want 3 days to verify the credit worthiness of the tenant. If you run into that, ask them to, do that within 24 hours, because you don't want your client waiting for a response and losing out on other properties, right? So you're going to need to go into your CRM and update your deals twice with each and every client, because you're always going to have an opening offer, and then you're going to have a status update. Did it firm up or did it fail? So making sure that you're doing that twice. Once you do have an offer that is conditional, firm, or failed, it will ask you for more information, so more details, which I thought, again, I had screenshots of, but it's pretty straightforward. It'll ask you for the address, the MLS number, what the offer is. So when you hear from the deals department, update your CRM with your deals, this is what they're talking about. So, because you'll also need to upload all of your accepted documents to web forms. So that's where you would go in the CRM. All right, so I'm getting a question here about irrevocability. How late of days, hours we can submit offer to lease to listing agent by email? Yeah, great question. I mean, it really, it's up to you. Sometimes you have a client who, is really interested, wants to submit their offer right away, but it takes them a couple of hours to send you the documents. You might be writing an offer at 10 p.m. It's up to you if you decide to send that offer to the listing agent at 10:30, 11 p.m. at night. Or if you wait until the morning. It just depends on, how quickly. But will your GM review it late night? Yes, if you're in the middle of an offer and your client is pressing you to submit it, later in the evening, then yes, your GM is available to review it for you. But yeah, if it is really late, then maybe encourage your client to sign it in the morning, or even have them sign it, in the moment, but then date it for tomorrow, present it tomorrow. That gives your GM a little bit more time to take a look at it. Yeah, of course, my pleasure. No problem. All right. So I already mentioned how to win the deal. So these are not objections you want to be getting from the listing agent, because you asked pre-qualifying questions during that initial phone call with that lead when they inquired about a property. So this is not going to be anything that the listing agent says to you, right? No, their credit score is too low, or no, we're rejecting your offer because it's not enough income. You ask those questions at the very beginning, and you're working with a qualified tenant. So again, asking about the situation is important, because there will be times that maybe you're working with somebody who is brand new to Canada and they don't have the credit score, they don't have the stability. So if that's a situation you're in, you want to reach out to the listing agent and just make sure, hey, I have newcomers to Canada, will the landlord consider this situation? And if the listing agent says yes, then you can show them that property. So again, you're handling the objections before they actually happen. And then, as I mentioned before, to really sweeten the deal, to really increase your chances of getting an offer accepted, offer more rent, offer more deposit, offer an earlier start date. It's just the nature of leases. If you're wanting to go in and negotiate on their behalf, you're just not going to get it. Leases are really, really competitive. So make sure that you're preparing your client upfront. As I said as well, present the offer with a family photo. I feel that goes a long way. And of course, make sure that the listing agent has received the offer when you send it. So just a couple of tips there to win the deal and get it accepted. So once you have it accepted, there's a couple of things that we need to do. So we have a closing checklist. So I'm going to talk about this just for a couple minutes, and then I will get to your guys' questions. Because yeah, we have an accepted offer. We've now done all of that work and we have an accepted offer, which is very exciting. So you want to make sure, of course, that, the deposit check gets delivered. So as soon as that offer is accepted, you're telling your client to go and drop off the bank draft at the listing brokerage there are other options right now. So reach out to the listing agent and find out, does it need to be delivered in person? Can it be, deposited at an RBC branch? Can it be wire transferred? So talk to the listing agent about that. Give those options to your client, make sure it gets delivered, and then make sure that you get a receipt from the listing brokerage because you're going to need that for your documents. As I mentioned before, you want to prepare that residential tenancy agreement after everything has been accepted. And then there are two things that you need to remember. You need to update your CRM and you need to upload your accepted documents to web forms. Those are going to be the two things that you need to do for the deals department. Two things. And then, of course, you're reminding your client to transfer utilities before they move in, get tenants insurance. If they have agreed to provide post-dated checks, make sure that they have post-dated checks. And then, of course, meet with the landlord and the client if you're available. On or before occupancy, do a walkthrough, note any deficiencies, exchange keys, post-dated checks, and the deal is done. So that's the entire closing checklist. Just a quick note about updating the CRM and uploading your accepted documents. Again, this is the CRM. You would be in your client's profile page. You're updating your activity with a deal, and you're going ahead and you're saying that now this has firmed up. And then this is where you would enter in all that information. So this is a screenshot of what other information is requested. So just go ahead, enter in the address, the MLS number, and of course the initial offer and gross commission value all gets entered in dollar amounts. Final offer, when was the offer accepted? When does it close? So pretty straightforward. Just make sure that you're filling in the blanks. Clicking on submit, that updates the CRM with your deal. And then if the deals department says, hey, you also need to upload your documents to your checklist, this is what they mean. You need to go into web forms. This is where you prepared all of your documents. So here's my sidebar that I wanted to have earlier. You prepared all of your documents in forms. You sent everything off for signature using Authentisign, and now you're at the checklist stage because now everything has been accepted. If you click on checklist when you're in your transaction kit, it gives you a list of all the documents you prepared and all of the documents that you should have signed by both parties, right? Again, there will be some that you don't need, like the offer summary document. You can just skip that. But the ones that you do have, you want to make sure that you are attaching the fully executed PDFs for the deals department to review. And the deals department will literally give you a thumbs up or a thumbs down if it has been, if they're fully executed. If you're missing a signature, they'll definitely let you know about that. So going to your checklist, and then last but not least, you can see that there's a status bar up here next to the name of your transaction, and just click firm deal to notify the deals department that you have everything uploaded to your checklist. All right, that was a lot. So again, I'm going to be talking about the web form specifically tomorrow. So join me for that. But right now, if you have any questions about the CRM, I'm happy to answer them. I have one here from Pathman. What is the auto transfer and dead transfer? Okay, great question. So when you are in your CRM and you have spoken to a client and they are not really looking in your area, they've decided to, look for properties in a different area that you're just not going to drive to, then my recommendation is to go onto our workplace group and post in referrals. Hey, I have a lease lead looking in London. Who wants it? And then that way you can go ahead and up at the top of the client profile, you click transfer, and then you should be able to transfer them. You'll see a drop-down menu with all of our agents in alphabetical order. So you should be able to find the agent who is interested in the lead on that list, and then you hit transfer. I don't recommend using the auto transfer button because what ends up happening is it just lands in somebody's CRM and they're not really aware of it. So it is available as an option, but just take the extra step if you guys don't mind and just post it on the referral group. That way you know that the lead will be attended to. An auto transfer is just gonna, as I said, put it into somebody's CRM and they might not be expecting it and might not attend to it right away. So again, we're thinking about customer service always top of mind. So make sure that you are sending it to an active agent. In terms of the dead status up at the top, so that marks a lead dead. Again, I don't recommend using that. If you go ahead and click on, your call activity and the fact that they maybe never answers, that basically marks it dead in the system, but with an explanation. And it also helps your call rate. The only time I would ever mark a lead dead is if there's a duplicate lead. Then you can see which one is, if there's the same lead with two different email addresses, the system knows that it's the same lead because maybe it's the same phone number. Anyway, that can get that's a little bit more advanced, but if that might be a situation where you use the dead button, but again, not something that I recommend using typically. So yeah, so all of our webinars are happening now at noon, so we can accommodate the Vancouver agents so that it's not, a super unreasonable hour for them. So it's 9 a.m. Vancouver time and 12 o'clock Toronto time. That's when all of our webinars will be taking place. So tomorrow at noon, I'll be talking about web forms and Authentisign. Exciting stuff. So hopefully you guys can join me. And yeah, let me know if you guys have any other questions. Because I know that was a lot, but like I said, yesterday was a stat, so we didn't do the new agent orientation for CRM. So today what we've done is we've kind of combined for new agents the CRM and what you do with those leads when they come in, assuming that you're getting those lease leads. So hopefully this was informative and not overload. If you guys have questions, your growth managers are there. I'm here for you. Let me know. Yeah, web forms will all make sense tomorrow, I promise. So join me tomorrow, and I'll see you guys on the next webinar. Thanks so much. Have a great day, everybody. Stay safe. Bye.
Thank you.